Nairobi name comes from a Maasai phrase Enkare Nairobi, which simply means a place of cool waters. But today, Nairobi has changed from a place of cool waters to one in which the water is not cool anymore and it's no longer fit for human consumption. Welcome to the program. My name is Elijah Mwangi, sitting in for Alex Chamwada. On today's show, River in West.
We're faced with a near collapse of our river systems.
The sewer from informal settlement, 80% of it goes to the river.
As government swings into action to save the river.
We want to make sure that Nairobi River defines Nairobi. Nairobi is named after this river. And the only way Nairobi can retain this name is if this river is sustained.
Well, today we shall be looking at the level of pollution in Nairobi River Basin, but first, let's have our fact sheet.
There are many rivers and streams along the Nairobi River Basin, but the three main rivers are Nairobi River, whose source is Ondiri Swamp in Kikuyu, Kiambu County, Ngong River, whose catchment is Dagoretti Forest in Kiambu County, and Mathare River, which also originates from Kiambu County. Nairobi River joins Mathare River at Lakisama in Kariobangi North, forming one river which joins the Ngong River just before Ruai area. Peter Abwao is one of the scientists who have conducted research on pollution of Nairobi River Basin.
The river is heavily eutrophied. It's an ecosystem that we can actually categorize as a dead and closed ecosystem.
Like many other sub-Saharan rivers, the Nairobi River Basin faces pollution challenges. Studies show that key pollutants include raw sewage, burst sewers, solid waste, industrial discharge, and heavy metals like lead and mercury. Experts say pollution along the Nairobi River Basin pose health risks including cancers, internal organ damage, diarrhea, allergies, skin problems, and respiratory diseases.
I think the state of Nairobi rivers is dire. We're faced with a near collapse of our river systems for many reasons. One is the land use change that is happening in the source areas of the rivers. And the other one is just the rapid urbanization and just lack of clear policies and management of our riparian system.
The continued pollution of these rivers causes health problems not only to humans but also the aquatic life. The Nairobi River Basin joins the Athi River Basin at some point, meaning the impact of that pollution cuts across several counties all the way to the Indian Ocean. These counties include Kiambu, Kajiado, Nairobi, Machakos, Makueni, Kitui, Taita Taveta, and Tana River. For the Chamwada Report, I'm Michael Zimanji.
We have been tracing pollution along the Nairobi River Basin, and what we found out is worrying. We shall be giving you more details about that much later in the show, but for now, let's start with some highlights of an event that happened here in Michuki Park, Nairobi, that saw government officials launching the Nairobi River Restoration Command Center.
This cleaning will continue until we ensure that the entire Nairobi River is clean, and not only the river, environs, and ensuring that no effluent is emitted to the river by those of us who stay in Nairobi, and also to ensure that the riparian area is completely cleaned.
We are ready to assist the other agencies to clean the river by also removing people who have encroached on the rivers. We have riparian space. Normally it starts about 6 meters from the start of the river and it goes downstream depending on the width of the river. Together with NEM and other agencies, we have marked the buildings that are on riparian space and we are going to demolish them. So this is a notice to those who have encroached on the river space to start moving out.
Industries, abattoirs, residential areas, businesses that are having effluent finding its way into Nairobi River, this will be completely done away with our enforcement. This is a multi-agency team, so we are not lacking any power that we require to make this work.
We are already in conversation with the private sector, and we have already agreed a program, especially with respect to plastic bottles, where the private sector is setting up a process of reclaiming and recycling plastic bottles. And very soon you'll be seeing a huge launch and a methodology of how and where Nairobians will be able to safely dispose of plastic bottles.
As we promised, we have been monitoring the activities along Nairobi River Basin, and after the break, find out how industrial and human waste is being dumped into the river, consequences, and what the authorities are doing about it. Welcome back to the program, and in case you are just joining us, we are looking at the level of pollution in Nairobi River Basin. Remember, you can always join the conversation online using the hashtag #RiverInWaste. From Mathare to Korogocho, Kibra to South Sea Estate, an already polluted river enters industrial area. From a bird's eye view, you can easily mistake the river with an open sewerage system. The river is already in a sorry state, and upon reaching here in industrial area, it is subjected to another kind of pollution. The studies that have been conducted on Nairobi River Basin clearly shows that the industrial effluent discharged directly into the river has lifelong health impacts. On the banks of Ngong River in industrial area, this is what you will find: discharge of petrochemicals from the industries. Experts have warned that this kind of industrial effluent poses grave risks to Kenyans.
And the heavy metals are detected in very high levels within the industrial zone area. And some of the heavy metals that have been detected within that stretch of the river are, for example, mercury, for example, copper, cadmium, arsenic. These are heavy metals with which are very dangerous, especially towards any living organism, be it plants or animals. From the studies that have been conducted, you start seeing very abnormal concentration of this heavy metal around the industrial zone. And for those of you who might be knowing Nairobi River properly, you will agree with me that the river is heavily eutrophied. It's an ecosystem that we can actually categorize as a dead and closed ecosystem.
If you are doing a development in an area where there is no sewer, or which is not sewered, before you can actually release that, perhaps let's say you are building a septic tank, or you have constructed wetland, we give you what is called effluent discharge license. What does this mean? It means that when you are in operation, if you are an industry, we come, we do the test of all the parameters, and there are many, both biological and chemical. And then if you meet the standards, then we are going to allow you to release that. If you are in a sewered area, you do not need effluent discharge license. However, every facility which is discharging an effluent into the sewer requires an annual audit. And this audit every year talks about the standards.
Industries have been put on the spot. The Environmental Management and Coordination Act is the framework law on environmental management and conservation. It's under this act where issues like discharge of industrial effluent are tackled. But it seems the law is just as good as it is on paper, if what we found in industrial area is anything to go by. All this pollution takes place, yet there are policies, programs, and institutions designed to check and control this kind of pollution.
Tumejaribu kung'ang'ana na kupigana na hiyo maneno ya hiyo uchafu. Tumekuwa tukishindwa, ambaye tujui ule mtu amelalia hii maneno. Tusharipoti kwa chief area, tusharipoti kwa assistant county commissioner. sababu hii takataka wakati inamwagwa hapa inateremuka na huko chini penye wakazi wanakaa.
We have a program within the Nairobi River Basin, particularly the areas where we have the industries, at the Gong River tributary of the Nairobi River, where we have a program called Compliance Assistance Program. Industries in this area are by and large non-compliant, but we have established that rather than fight with them and close them down, we bring them on board into a program, and we work this together with the Danish government, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and the Cleaner Production Center. We take all the companies through a compliance assistance program, whereby we try to reduce even the waste effluent into the river, get the standards right for effluent discharge, and therefore that together with the licensing, we are able to actually bring them. And we give them timelines for compliance. They voluntarily come to us, and in the end, you find that the success includes that they can cut on some of the resources, including some of them use so much water and they don't actually necessarily need that, or so much chemical to clean up. So this cleaner production initiative with us is important and actually helps also them as a way of actually having self-compliance.
Kenya Association of Manufacturers is a business membership organization. So we bring together the stakeholders in the manufacturing sector and act as a link for dialogue between them and policy makers. So the role we play in policy formulation, first of all, is participating in the formulation of policies. Then once the policies and regulations are put in place and the laws, we communicate the same to our members because we want them to be aware of the legislative environment within which they operate. So we do communicate to them the same. The third thing we do is that we offer trainings and seminars. Anytime there's a new law, we have a seminar where we invite our members and take them through the law so that they're aware of what they need to do to comply.
Besides the industrial effluent, there is another kind of pollution along Gong River. Now, the decision to ban plastics here in Kenya was considered to be a major step in dealing with pollution, specifically water pollution. About 7 months down the line, the question is, what has changed? Well, the polythene bags are still there. Bear in mind that they are not biodegradable, and so they are here to stay. Plastic bottles that are still allowed in the market are also glaringly a big contributor to the pollution.
This is an enduring controversy. I know the plastic ban has been lauded by many people, and that's kind of water under the bridge. But our biggest problem is waste management. At what point does plastic become a menace? When it is in my pocket wrapping my sweet, it is not a menace until I take it out of my pocket and put it in the wrong place. Okay? And I think we just have to be more creative rather than reactive. And I think if you ask me, this kind of blanket bans or ban this, ban that is just a poverty of imagination. If we thought hard about these wastes, we would create many allied sustainable businesses out of these things.
The issue of the plastic ban had a touch of the extended producer liability and the take-back schemes. This has been left for further discussion between the ministry, NEMA, and industry to find out what works best. Because if you look at the take-back scheme, what is initially required is that for any waste you discharge, there must be a way for that waste to either come back to the person who's produced it, and that requires the setup of certain systems.
With industry sprouting every time in industrial area, the situation is worsening by the day. If it's not the industrial discharge directly into the river, then it is the smoke emitted from factory chimneys, which dissolves in rainwater and eventually ends up in the same river, a river in waste. Well, at this point, we join Brian Obuya, who is in Korogosho slums, looking at how slums are polluting Nairobi River.
The last time I was here in Korogosho, before it rained, the color of this river was black or something thereabouts. It may appear cleaner today and its volume may have increased, but the level of pollution and its impact on this river is worrying.
Children play with dirty water in Korogosho. Another washes gunny bags in the same river. A middle-aged woman is cleaning clothes and gunny bags to fend for her family here. All of them oblivious of the danger that lies within this neatly scripted story of a river flowing with average serenity.
Shida yenye tuko nayo sana kama wakaji wa Korokocho, hatuna macho mzuri. Macho ni zile malatrin, na ikijaa kuna watu wanapewagwa kazi ya kuchota na mahali wanaenda kumuaga kwa maji Nairobi River. Madhara ni mingi sana. Ya kwanza, watoto unajua wanachezea hii area. Magonjwa ni mingi, kila saa mtoto umempeleka hospitali juu ya uchafu ya hiyo maji.
After visiting Korogosho for days, we can authoritatively report that most of the households here are releasing toilet effluents directly into the river. We will call this young man Sam, not his real name. He has been among the many who resolved into this business.
Yes?
They have allowed us to follow the trail of their job, but only granted us permission to film some segments of this process. We managed to capture the entire process. It follows that a landlord will collect money from tenants to cater for the service of emptying the pit latrines. He will then call the service providers who with time have specialized in this job. The young men, using their bare hands, will then make rounds in emptying toilets, probably aware or not aware of the health implications.
Iko na madhara mingi kama ukichota hapo kiko hapo ndani kubreathe, hiyo nini inakuwa ngumu kubreathe, alafu vifua zinafungana, so inabidi wengine wetu tunapuuzana, inabidi kutoka hapo enda kunywa maziwa ama unakunywa mai, lakini wengi wanapenda pombe, so they don't hawachukuli serious, lakini madhara yake ni mingi. Tena unapata inaua ngozi, skin yako inaanza kuchange kwa sababu ya harufu, pia sauti inaanza kupotea.
This fecal material will then find its way into the river. What should worry all of us is the fact that this happens in broad daylight and no one seems bothered. It is the new normal. And as you walk randomly in Korogosho, you realize that there are more people in this business. It has become an accepted practice here.
The sewer from informal settlement, 80% of it goes to the river. 20% is likely to be contained, but at the end, it will also find itself to the river because it is not connected to the sewer system or the exhausters. The people who are doing exhausting, they are just using manual exhausters, which again, they dispose to the river. So a greater percent of it goes to the river. Through the program which was initiated in between 2008 and 2010 for the Nairobi River rehabilitation and restoration, several players came in. The area of liquid waste management, it was taken up by African Development Bank. Phase 1 has already been completed, and that has lent us improve the coverage of sewage in the city from 40 to 48%. Now, phase 2 is under negotiation, where they are ready to put over 6 billion still on expansion on coverage of sewage network, and this will increase the coverage to almost 60%.
But it is not just human waste that has been the headache to a clean Nairobi River Basin in Korogosho.
So how deep will they run now that?
Sewer lines opened directly into the river and burst manholes are another thing. Another bigger story altogether. A story whose consequences only locals who know, like James Njenga, can make sense of it.
Ukiangalia hii ni sewage, badala ipeleke sewage penye inatakikana, roa hii imetoboka, ndio hiyo inaelekea kwa mto. Hii mto ndio watoto wanacheza, iko mama wanafanya kazi, wanachukua hizi bag zinatupwa, wanakuja kuzioshea kwa mto. Ina affect sana watoto kugonjeka.
And as you enter Korogosho, there's another major burst that locals argue has lasted at least a year, giving motorists and pedestrians a hard time crossing and risking the health of those who reside here.
Now, Korogosho may just be an example, but most informal settlement areas in the city are in dire need of proper sewerage and solid waste management systems. And if put in place, that's going to go a long way in rehabilitating the Nairobi River Basin.
And that brings us to the end of our show. Join us next week in this continuing series of River in Waste. We have more on causes of pollution as well as the way forward. On behalf of the entire crew, thank you so much for watching. My name is Elijah Mwangi, sitting in for my colleague, Alex Chamwada. See you next time.